It's only the Union Jack if it's at sea, Actually, excuse me for interrupting your conversation there, people at the end of the bar, as I stand here drinking on my own. I just heard you mentioning Union Jack there. I think you'll find it's actually only the Union Jack if it's at sea, if it's been flown on a ship, flown above a ship. If it's on land, if it's been flown above a building, it's the Union flag. It's officially called the Union flag. Is that right? I've never heard that before. So if it's all at sea, if it's flapping about and all at sea in the blue sea of Ibrox, if it's flapping, then it's Jack. It's Union Jack. You got any turkey on you? Any turkey on you? No, just. I mean, a leg would be quite. I mean, if you had the whole family around, you had the big. But you don't have nobody's not because I think folk would be sick of. Maybe you put it in the bin early. Just go and have a wee look. I don't. I'll get the silver paper and just cook it up. Just cook it up and get some into my system. I don't the chemist. The chemist just gave me my chicken, but I want it's the turkey that I really. I'm into now, man. I'll take a wee turkey crown. The turkey crown. I'll just take the turkey a wee bit after that. If it's only you and the wife that we're having Christmas dinner, I'm eating nothing like a little bit of stuffing. There's some stuffing in there. Nobody eats all this stuffing. Just stuffing that's just got the turkey jus through it. Just still get the taste of turkey. I'll take that as well. Just take it in. I'll take some turkey roll off you, man. I will rinse out your baster if you could just find me a bit of turkey that could just get me back to Christmas Day when everything was just standing still. The season was a season of goodwill was to all men and stuff like that. That kind of season, no, this kind of season, not just to fit this season, the 2024, 2025. It was a Christmas season, just sitting there drinking Croft Original and watching Poirot, Hercule Poirot, David Suchy's Christmas special. I'm drunk and I'm stuffing my face, and it's just give me the toss. So it's only the Union Jack if it's at sea. And I think it's the Oisen. They forgive me here, right? Because I don't know the names of the St Mirren players. Don't know how to pronounce their names. This could be embarrassing. I realised the night a guy played his 200th game for St Mirren the night. I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. I do. I've seen him playing for St Mirren. I've seen St Mirren in the flesh. However many times I've been to all the games they've played at Ibrox, for the last 20 odd years that we're allowed to go to. Obviously, those ones that were for COVID and all that. But I don't think I've ever missed a St Mirren game at Ibrox for the last 25 years, this century, basically. I've seen these guys playing and all that, and I don't know who it is, and it just was making me think about how it's changed the whole fan media thing, which I'm playing my little kind of peripheral part in right here, is really making us kind of circle the wagons as our own. Maybe that's why football supporters are getting more bitter in the age when we've got most information to hand. We're just indulging ourselves in our own kind of stuff. We don't see why your team should ever get beat. It must be a conspiracy. It's a bit like what's happening with just like politics and that kind of thing. How you don't realise, as much as you might hate the Scottish National Party, I think, and I've never voted for them, but I do think the Scottish National Party are probably the nicest of all the kind of white populist movements that have turned the Western world into a Nazi toxic bucket over the last decade and a bit. But it's part of that whole. Now, the same thing was happening, I think, with the Romantic movement. If you want to think about Walter Scott and Balmoral, Brigadoon type stuff, and that eventually became everybody wearing kilts, and there were different kilts to the ones that actual folk who wore actual kilts as part of their daily life in Scotland, but in different parts of Scotland. And but that was just part of the whole movement that was taking part all over Europe, taking place all over. Sturm and Drang, post-Enlightenment stuff, just Enlightenment, Romanticism, all different movements, the sorrows of young Werther Goethe and all that kind of stuff, and you end up getting it, and you go into Scotland's version, and we had Ossian. Ossian was made up by this guy, was it McPherson his name was? Because everybody was deciding to have their own wee romantic history. They were into this idea of some sort of ethnicity or kind of almost like native kind of truth that was so much more pathetic and dull compared to the reality, really complex reality of what goes on, nations being together. Anyway, the whole point is we had Ossian, he was kind of made up. I think it was based on Oisin, which is the name of the guy who scored. This is what I'm talking. Like Michael Stewart Knight's. I don't know what it is with Michael Stewart. I mean, he played professional football. I would love to have played professional football. He's trim. I'm morbidly obese. He's got a full head of hair. I'm bald as a coot, and he gets paid. I'm doing this for nothing, man. It's just costing me to do this stuff, but he's getting paid to talk shite about football. And why does he sound so angry all the time? Why does he sound like the only time he can ever be the least angry person in the world is for the 2 or 3 seconds that he says something to somebody who's in his direct company that's just really no nice and kind of chippy and horrible. And they go, "What are you talking about, Michael Stewart?" And he just, for a wee seconds, "Oh, I needed that. I needed that temporary relief, because making you really angry just for a few seconds has made me feel that I'm chilled out and I'm relaxed just for a second." But it's not the same thing as being properly relaxed, but it'll have to do for me. It's kind of method. It's like getting your chicken instead of turkey at this time of year. It's going to be kind of methadone type scenario. But he had to jump in the other night when Rory Hamilton was saying a really nice thing about Tony Fitzpatrick, total legend, who had said that St Mirren should be, top six minimum. Every season, and it's actually coming to pass. It's true, and he was ridiculed for it at the time, says Rory Hamilton. But Michael Stewart, even he can't let that go. Even if it happened in the past, he has to go in there. Oh, was somebody else getting ridiculed? That means it's not me getting ridiculed. Right, I need to get in on this. Actually, what it was, actually, Rory, you'll realise it was Tony Fitzpatrick had said St Mirren should be finishing third. They should be the best team in Scotland outside the Old Firm, as if that's going to happen. You're thinking, well, what's this? I mean, they won the Scottish Cup, didn't they, in '87? They won the Scottish Cup in the '50s, St Mirren, and they won they won the League Cup. Remember, they beat Hearts in that great League Cup final. And he's actually put Celtic out in the semi-finals, and I think they finished like third, fourth, maybe at least in the kind of late 70s, early 80s, that great time when they were playing in Europe and stuff like that. I thought they played in Europe this season as well, St Mirren, but it was like, no, Tony Fitzpatrick was actually, let's have a laugh at it. Well, that's no nice, and Tony Fitzpatrick is an absolute legend of Scottish football. When I know about Tony Fitzpatrick, I know about Billy Abercrombie, I knew about not Ian Ferguson even before he came to Rangers, his time at St Mirren, before he scored in the Scottish Cup final. I knew the Billy Thompson, who ends up at the late great Billy Thompson, even though he ends up at Rangers. But I knew about St Mirren. You knew about other teams, but knew we're all kind of circling the wagon. So you have to forgive me if I'm going to get names wrong, going to get pronunciation wrong, because it gets a bit sensitive here. Oyson, who I think is taking his name from the mythological Irish poet or storyteller, who is a narrator of and the character, and a small character in a cycle of stories or poems. I don't really know. I know wee bits, kind of barroom board type bits about Irish writers, and like Beckett and Beckett, and Beckett. I know about all sorts of Irish poets and writers and things like that, and Yeats and stuff like that. But I don't really know any great detail about it. So I'm sorry if I'm getting this, but it's Oyson is the narrator of. It's called, one of the names is the Fiann cycle. The Fiann cycle, as in Fianna Fáil, I think, basically. And again, excuse my pronunciation if it's all wrong there. I'm not doing that on purpose out of badness or anything. And it's also known as, in other circles, it's known as the Fenian cycle. The Fenian cycle. So when I see Oyson Smith, even though he's not up to Rangers fans, got in the red writing in the back of the black and white stripe. I mean, I was being quiet at the time. He's telling us to shush. I was being quiet because I was sitting on the sofa, just totally depressed, thinking, how's this happening again? It says Smith, but it's got a Y, so I'm going, oh, Smythe, just subconsciously reading the guy's name. But he would probably be, I think it's Smith for what I heard tonight, but just spelling it with a Y, which I think you can do in any country and that, but he would probably think Smythe is kind of, it sounds like your Mulgai Bearsden, part of the Protestant Presbyterian establishments of mythology. Which, Celtic, 14 out of the last 13 league titles or something like that, 60,000 all-seater capacity stadium and constant access to the Champions League. If that's not an establishment, I don't know what is. If that's not institutionalised, I don't know what is. But he would probably think that. The way Billy Connolly talked about how people whose surnames were the same, their Christian names would sound like their surnames, you couldn't tell them apart, kind of thing, because it always makes me think about Brown McMaster, who, funnily enough, was a St Mirren, Partick Thistle, the chairman, MD, but a hero of the Firhill boardroom anyway. And always a really nice guy. When I saw him on telly, he came across really well. But he was Brown McMaster, and every time I saw him, I thought his first name's Brown. That makes me think of that. Billy Connolly, greatest comedian of all time. And I thought, that's spot on. He'll think he's a total heavy-duty Protestant kind of, that bogeyman type. if you want to be bigoted, that's the kind of one of the ways of calling it out. So I'm seeing a guy called Oisin Smite, and I'm like, that's the guy on the Fenian cycle. Oh God, we're getting it right runners tonight. I'm with two guys that play at different levels for Northern Ireland, scoring the goals against us tonight, and a Declan also featuring for. So I mean, they're just rubbing it in my face tonight. I mean, they really are just a Declan. I mean, when's a guy like Declan ever going to get a game for Rangers? No, we need to get away from this splitting the world up into. But the thing about Oisin Smith running up and giving it I thought it was quite appropriate, because it's like, no, well, why are we? You're allowed to be a poet. You're allowed to have the name of a guy who's telling a story to the whole world, about your people or whatever like that. You get all kind of romantic about it, but I can't get to tell my truth, and that's all I've been doing in these flipping post-match reaction pods for the last what feels like since I feel like basically Egil Skallagrimsson, who I think missed a penalty against Everton the day for Man City, but I feel like him in that one story. I went to this lecture and I remember it. I remember bits of these, like I should have went to more of them, because I was supposed to go to more of them. I was getting paid to go to these, but I should have went to more of them because they were quite interesting. I might have actually got a decent degree or something like that. But it was Eric Bloodaxe, which was like 900s, and he had this guy came to visit him, Egil Skallagrimsson, and he had killed one of Eric Bloodaxe's boys. And if you're going to kill somebody's boys, if his name's Eric Bloodaxe, I don't know why you're going to visit him, because it's kind of obvious what he's going to do to you when his name's kind of telling the story there. And Eric Bloodaxe is like, oh, you killed, no, you're dead. And he's like, no, didn't mean any offence. I'm just going to, no, you're dead. That's it, I'm going to kill you right now. And Egil Skallagrimsson's pal, who also knows Eric Bloodaxe, he jumps in and goes, no, okay, just leave it to the morning, mate. Just leave it to the morning, your lordship, whatever. Don't kill him just now. This is in North England. It's the Danelaw and Northumbria and all that kind of stuff. I can't remember. But he goes, he's like, no, right, okay, we'll shove you in a cell overnight, but you're getting head chopped off or whatever it was. In the morning, you're dead. So, okay, but overnight, what Egil Skallagrimsson does is he composes this poem, oral tradition, and that's why Ossie and Oisin and all that, it's when folks started giving out what they'd actually said, all that, it was, well, you've written it down, you've written that down, it's not because these people, even though they didn't exist, the Oisin and the Ossie, but I think Egil Skallagrimsson might have existed, but they did it all in their heads, they had to remember it, as well as, that's why you get a lot of repetition in these things, but it's a head ransom poem or something. There's a particular name for it to make sure that you're not going to get your head ransomed or something. I don't know, so you're not going to get killed. But he has to do all sorts of praise for the guy who's going to kill him. And he has to base it on historical fact, and also there's all complicated rhyme schemes and stuff like that. I mean, worse than a sonnet and that, it's just quatrains and things that don't come into it. It's just really, really complex stuff, and he can't even write it down. He's got to sit up and just remember what he's composing as he goes. Anyway, he starts reciting the poem to Eric Bloodaxe the next day when he's due to get killed, and Eric Bloodaxe is blown away by how good it is. It's a scene at 8 Mile, with Eminem and that. He's like, oh wow, you good rhyme. So he lets him off with it. That's fantastic, and you've got to go now. You're safe. You're free to go. You've saved your own life by telling a great poem about me. And sometimes I feel that's a kind of version of what I'm not trying to make myself out to be some sort of hero or Viking or like really kind of svelte, ripped, total butch, blonde-haired, blue-eyed warrior who just does what he wants and the ladies love it. I'm not trying to say that's what I'm like in my own head or anything like that, but I think that when Rangers are losing these fucking games, as they have been consistently over the last feels like going back to the 10th century, like Egil Skallagrimsson. When we go back on that, it's Skaldic poetry, was it? We started them after 55 season on Gersnet. On Gersnet, when I first started doing these post-match reaction pods, it was 2020, 2021, that was my first season on Gersnet, and we weren't even doing post-match reaction pods, and if we had been, I probably wouldn't get involved. But it was only afterwards we started doing them, and Rangers just wanted to win the bloody league. I mean, won one Scottish Cup. I've had fantastic stuff. The stuff going to Seville and all that's been absolutely brilliant. But it just feels like every now and then there's an absolute car crash of a game, car crash of a result, and this is one of them. Tonight, they didn't play a 6 at the start of the game, so we thought we'd play 2 10s, and we ended up with zilch St Mirren. As I say, they were concentrating on the game, and we were we were thinking about the project, and tends to work out better for St Mirren. That kind of their version of thinking about this game tonight. But I feel as if I've been doing that thing where I'm doing that Egil Skallagrimsson. I'm trying to do something at the beginning of these pods. I've got to make up something to try and distract all the Celtic fans or the ambulance chasers that come on here to mock and to revel in my pain and my misery. I'm always trying to do something to kind of distract from that, and I'm just running out of steam. Eric Bloodaxe is going to cut my head off. I'm trying to compose something off the top of my head. I can't think. I've got the Irish poetry thing. There's the Fianna cycle, the Fenian cycle, and Irish poems. What the hell am I going to say? But it's actually, all has changed utterly. A terrible beauty is born, or whatever Green is born. But nothing's changed. Fuck me, mate. An interminable ugly keeps going, rather than a terrible beauty is born. But for me, it's actually Rangers fans. It's no Celtic fans I'm worried about in this one. It's just the Rangers fans, because they'll be back. They're Rangers fans. They'll be back. That type of Rangers fan, they kind of, they're just the same as me. Just they say things in a different way. They express their loyalty through being horrible about Rangers players and Rangers employees and Rangers managers and Rangers directors, and they just slag everything Rangers in a way that still, I can't help it. It emotionally confuses me. I remember being in probably the same. I think it was the same building when I got the lectures about Egil Skallagrimsson. I didn't go to. I went to the toilet, and I had to go into. I'll spare details, but I had to go into the actual, the wee bit where you shut the pan, and then there's somebody various bits of vandalism on the wall, and I was reading the phone numbers and that. But there was one bit that said, if you hate Rangers, write your name down here and who you support. And Davy St Johnstone, they're a bunch of Huns, and Jim Celtic, they're all knuckle draggers. And I just wrote Alec Rangers. God, how do you think I feel? It's murder. When we're bad, we're bad. And I was being ironic, because sometimes your own team pisses you off. Your own team has more power to piss you off than any other team. And that's what's happened tonight. So I can't really blame folk for doing that thing of ripping into their own team, but it just felt. It felt like we'd kind of turned a wee corner. End of November, that 1-8 draw with Dundee United, 23rd November, whatever it was. And then after that, we seriously picked up, doing really well. Now the win in Nice seemed like a real turning of a corner, then a draw with Spurs. And even though we lost the League Cup final to Celtic, what a display we put on that day, scoring 3 goals against Celtic for the first time in 20 years. And I feel as if it's the Rangers fan. It's just that kind of time where the best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity, and I don't like it. They're the worst coming out with their passionate intensity. A lot of people will feel vindicated again tonight. People wearing red, white and blue, as well as people wearing black and white, and people wearing green and white. And it's just not a very nice way to end Boxing Day. My name's Alec Anderson. The darkness drops again, but now I know that 20 centuries of stormy sleep were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle. And what rough beasts it's our come round at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born. Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope you got what Santa you wanted Santa to bring you. I that thing of be careful what you wish for. I know I wanted the action man with the eagle eyes and the grip hands and the scorpion tank and all that, and Striker where you press ahead, because Alan Frew, who stays across the road from me, he's not getting any of them. He gets all the Star Wars stuff, and I think that's rubbish. No, and I get the Skeletrix, the figure 8 Skeletrix. I wanted all that kind of stuff, and I go all that. But another Irish poet, kind of writer, kind of playwright kind of guy, he once said that there's only one thing worse than never getting what you want, and that's getting it. And I did. I got it yesterday for Christmas, and I'll tell you about that in the Motherwell preview pod, because we don't have the stuff I've got to get through the night, because I didn't do. Folk thought, Alec, I'll see you New Year, Alec. I was just saying I wasn't going to do a St Mirren preview pod. And look what's happened. Didn't do a St Mirren preview pod. No, because like the day before, usually the day before. The day before is baby Jesus' birthday, so really inappropriate, and a lot of yous wouldn't be. Although, Christmas Day with family, sometimes you do want to listen to a football podcast, but I wasn't going to bother doing that. And so I had to catch up with stuff that had happened during the after the St Mirren, the D game. If I didn't do a St Mirren preview pods, I didn't get to check back on the stuff that I didn't do right in the Dundee post-match reaction, and that really was a car crash. And I think it's led into this, because I did the whole thing when I forgot to mention Dessers getting booed. I forgot to mention Dessers getting booed coming on the park against Dundee as a sub late on. We're winning the game. And I mean, I get it. Strikers don't take penalties. Strikers don't necessarily take penalties. I mean, Phil Neal, he took penalties for Liverpool in European Cup final and stuff like that. Phil Neal winning the Europe with such simplicity. The European Cup is surely won for Liverpool, says Barry Davies when Phil Neal scores against Knipe for Liverpool in the 1977 European Cup final. And he was a fullback, wasn't he, Phil Neal? Certainly a defender anyway. But obviously Tav, our fullback, he takes all our penalties. It reminds me of the bit in what do you call it? Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. Butch Cassidy and Sundance, when they go to be deputies in some state that they're not being hunted, they apply to be deputies, and the sheriff goes, right, well, let's see what your shooting ability's like, because it's a violent time. And he makes them stand still there, and you shoot the tin cans or something like that, or bottles. He lines up bottles in a fence, and they're missing them. They can't hit them for loving their money. And they're like, right, boys, I don't think you're much use for the deputy job. And then Butch or Cassidy, or the Sundance Kid, says, can we move? What? Can I move? I move if you. Aye, move. Feel free to move. So they move while they're shooting, and they hit everything because they're used to shooting as outlaws. They're used to shooting, while they're on the move, and that's how they built up their accuracy. They don't know how to shoot standing still. I think that's a bit like strikers who are used to kind of sussing out where defenders are going, and they're in amongst the flying boots and all that, getting in there trying to be first man to the ball. If there's nobody to beat to the ball, you're just getting a clean strike on it. So that freaks out certain strikers. So I didn't have a problem with Dessers. We don't know what happened. Maybe Jack Butland, Super Jack Butland, Jack your body. Maybe he decided he was going to take that penalty. I don't know. Vice captain, he gets a say before Dessers. Who knows? So I felt as if it's booing your own players onto the park in a game that you're winning. Come on, that felt as if that was a bit much. But I forgot to mention it, so I forgot to mention that. See, I forgot to mention the bit where Big Robin Proper kind of basically cleared the ball off the line. Simon Murray dinked it over the goalkeeper, the Rangers goalkeeper, and Proper came in and cleared that away. I think that was just basically trauma had made me block that out because it was so worrying. I mentioned that Wolves had never played in the European Cup. I listened to this back. I'm thinking that's my last pod before Christmas. I'll chill out now, and I listened to it before I post it. I listened to it sitting in the car on the way back, and I heard myself saying Wolves who've never played in the European Cup. I'm like, what are you talking about? I knew I played in the European. I thought they played in the European Cup at least once. Stan Cullis' team. It was late 50s. They were winning the league in the late 50s, and I checked it out twice. They played in the European Cup. Excuse me. What I was trying to say was the guy. It was like the guy. It was mentioned that the guy who did the sculpture recently unveiled at Molineux, because Wolves were the forerunners. They were one of the reasons that European Cup came about, because they had these floodlit friendlies at Molineux before the European Cup was actually started. And they played well. They beat Honved and they played Spartak. I think Spartak Moscow. I don't know if they beat them or what, but they played a few foreign teams under the lights and declared themselves the best team in the world. So Gabriel Ano, Liquid, blah blah blah. You've got the European Cup starts in 1955. And the guy unveils this, or his football focus. I just caught a wee bit of it, and he's showing this local fella sculpture, and the sculpture is done to, kind of commemorate the fact that Wolves started Europe. It's the shape of the current European Cup, the shape it's been since '67. Celtic were the first team to win the European Cup. The trophy was the shape that it currently is, the Champions League trophy, the European Cup trophy. But I was just trying to make the point that Wolves hadn't played in the European Cup when it was that shape, but I worded it Wolves who'd never played in the European Cup, and that was a bit of a mistake. Jack Hayward, he was the Wolves chairman, the Wolves owner. He put a lot of work into Wolves. He's got a statue in there as well, but the sculptor, that's his whole work, that's his whole thing. That's, it's a vibe rather than what he's trying to say. When people think about European Cup now, most folk will think of that, the current shape of the trophy, even though Wolves have never played in it since it's been that shape. That was the point I was trying to make. But if he would just happen to have a glance at my podcasting last week, he would go, this guy's never been to a football match in his life. He doesn't even know that Wolves played. I was spouting on about European Cup and the shape of the European Cup trophy, and I mentioned that Wolves had never played in it. But I meant played in it when the trophy was that shape. They only played in the European Cup, the old shape European Cup that Real Madrid got to keep for good. But if he was watching my pods, he'd think this guy's never done a podcast in his life, and probably still would if he's hearing this one, because he would then have heard me refer to the fact that Jack Butland didn't have much to do in the game last Saturday, the game that I was at. I'd just been at. I was standing outside Ibrox, having honestly been in the state. I did bump into folk who watched the pod. They'll testify that I was actually at the game, because I seem to have watched the whole. I was in Buchanan Galleries the next day, the Sunday the next day, and I was like, you recognise somebody and you go to say hello, and you think, that's through a crowd, and it was only like the corner of his face I saw under a baseball cap. And there was lots of folk blocking the way because Buchanan Gallery was last Sunday before Christmas, it was absolutely mobbed. And I'm like, it was Derek McInnes. I don't actually know Derek McInnes. It's just because I'm so used to seeing him all the time on the telly and what have you. And Derek McInnes, so I'm like, he didn't try not to make eye contact, and I just walked on past. But then I heard them shouting, "Oh, big man! Oh, who was in goals for Rangers yesterday? I saw your pod, you fucking arsehole. Who was in goals for Rangers? You know who was in nets for that game you were supposed to be at yesterday?" He's taking a piss because I'd said it was Jack Butland, it was Liam Kelly. Congratulations to Jack Butland and the birth of his baby girl. But that was probably my worst. I do say it's a vibe. It's just a vibe. It's not a match report. But I mean, when I don't actually know who's in goals, and I've sat there, how many? If you've watched these regularly, I'm always going, I sit in the 18-yard line at the Copeland end. So when they score a goal, Rangers in the second half, they all come running up to me, and it's really good. Well, Dundee actually made a shoot towards the other end. We shot towards the Copeland in the first half last week. Maybe that's what threw me. Actually, because it was Liam Kelly. Liam Kelly was actually in goals for Rangers, and I mentioned in that pod last week, the post-match reaction pod, the Dundee game. I was like, I checked out the team sheet before the game. I was sitting in the car to avoid the rain. Checked out on the BBC website, and the standout team selection news was that Sterling was in at centre half, and Tav was playing it right back. But I think at that point, a few folk have told me it was a last minute thing because Jack Butland's wife went into labour really late on. I think it was only maybe 10-2 they get changed. So I would have checked it out before then. It would have said Butland there, but the fact that I've sat and these specs couldn't get any bigger, I've sat and I've watched the second half anyway up close the Rangers goalkeeper and never actually realised it was Jack Butland. And I formed the thought in the first half when Dundee eventually had an attack towards the end of the second half. I thought, God, Butland's had absolutely nothing to do today. That's the kind of game where Liam Kelly should actually have got a show. So congratulations to Liam Kelly. The last 3 Rangers games, Jack Butland has conceded 5 goals and 5 penalty shootout penalties, but he has scored one as well, whereas Liam Kelly has kept a clean sheet. So congratulations to Liam Kelly and getting his well-earned Rangers debut kind of thing this spell. And congratulations to Jack Butland for his wife having a kid, and congratulations to me for making probably one of the worst mistakes ever. I'm thinking, what is it? Why a Jack the Beanstalk, Union Jack? What's going on with me with Jack Butland? I remember Alan, I was on a podcast, a Jersnet podcast, and I was talking my whole kind of middle class that I don't like the way Jack Butland talks and all that, and it's a kind of a joke, but Alan's going, I think there's something personal going on here, Alec. I think you've got a personal agenda against Jack Butland. And I said you had the chat. I mean, it's like I'm saying to the Rangers today, you've chucked it. You had a chance to win, you chucked it. The prize was coming back into view. Any regular listeners to the Fat Eck podcast here, you also have chucked it because the prize was on offer, and I said to you, if you can work out why I don't like Jack Butland, it's not just because he occasionally flaps, not just because he comes across like that guy who does the podcast about winning mentality, Jake Humphreys. It's no just that. There's something that I don't really. And none of you, I said it's more staunch than you realise. It's more staunch than you would actually realise from the kind of lefty stuff that I sometimes put out, slip in little bits by mistake of lefty politics. I'm not an SNP voter in that, but you probably think I'm not really into the whole unionist thing. But I'm going to. You've lost it. Yeah, Rangers have got. I'm bitter, so I'm not going to give anybody else any prizes. Rangers aren't going to win any leagues this season. So it wasn't Kim Deal. It was Paz. It wasn't Ringo Starr. It was Pete Best. It wasn't Budgie. It was Kenny Morris. It wasn't Jack Butland who was in goals for Rangers. It was Liam Kelly last week. But the reason I don't like Jack Butland is because of the 2012 Olympics. 2012 Olympics, he was the goalkeeper for the Great Britain Olympic team, men's football team, at the 2012 Summer Olympics. And I went to that football tournament at Hampden, the games played at Hampden, where Great Britain didn't play and weren't going to. I remember Spain playing at the Nou Camp in the 92 Olympics, and that was quite a thing, but this wasn't going to happen, complex, and I'm glad it didn't happen because I wouldn't want to be there in the crowd when folk are. It was a whole. But Jack Butland, he misses the cross, he punches it into his own net. He made a complete arse of it against South Korea, and the game was drawn, but it went to penalties, and Britain get put out by South Korea because Jack Butland made a complete arse of it. So you're totally staunch, Alex. So you are actually a mad unionist. You were raging because Great Britain get. I don't know if that's what it is. I think what it is. I see him everywhere. Why am I seeing Jack Butland's face? I know he's wearing the same yellow strip, obviously, that Jack Butland wears as Rangers. All Rangers goalkeepers wear the yellow tops. Am I just seeing now? I'm seeing Jack Butland. Why am I not seeing Andy Goram? Why am I not seeing Chris Woods? When I see that yellow Rangers goalkeeper's kit, because if I'm going to be obsessed, I might as well be obsessed with them. It's a bit like a film that's on usually this time of year. Vertigo. I was watching North by Northwest, another Hitchcock. I was watching that yesterday, but another Hitchcock film that's on this time of year is Vertigo, and Jimmy Stewart, his Scotty. He's got a Scottish name, Ferguson or something. He's called Scotty, and he's obsessed with the kind of alabaster beauty of Kim Novak's face, but he thinks it's Madeline, but it's just Judy. Turns out it's the same person, of course. If you watch the film, sorry if that's kind of gives it away there, but that's Judy. He wants Madeline, but it's just Judy all the time. But he sees it. It's like Jane Eyre was on as well. Probably the greatest novel ever written. The film version's not, but it's Jane Eyre, which she's having it's probably the best writing ever in the world ever. The bit where she's kind of gone mad on the heath when she runs away from Rochester after the kind of jilts. It's a whole story, but the wedding can't go ahead. She finds out he's already married, and but she can hear his voice everywhere, even when she thinks she's getting over. She's getting herself back together, another life somewhere else, and that. But she can hear his voice all the time. Why am I always seeing Jack Butland's face when it's a total? There's something that's really getting to me here, and I think it might be to do with my obsession with nicknames. I'm always talking about the fact that I wanted Yanis Hadji to be known as a safecracker. Now that would get thrown back. That's why we don't do fancy nicknames in this country, because the Schadenfreude is such a major. Because we're all like Michael Stewart. You see the documentaries. I get things. You see documentaries, David Attenborough, wildlife stuff these days, and the leopard's tracking this antelope and eventually it catches it, but this cuts to it catches up with it and then it's dead. You don't get the bit where it actually kills it because it's too grisly, but you get that YouTube. I get that stuff sent to me all the time, and that's my algorithm on there. And warthogs are always getting it in the jungle. The Rwayans are getting it, shaken by the neck and all that, by leopards and tigers and stuff like that, shaking the warthog to death. But this one, it was a pride of lions attacked an adult warthog, and they're eating it alive for some reason. It's like once they had a hold of it, they weren't really interested in killing it. They're just too busy. They're all eating it. They're eating its innards and everything. But for some reason, they never really bit its heart or its throat. They never killed the thing, so it's screaming. It's screaming like the tappy. Its voice. Scream, 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 scream. It's the most horrible kind of, it wakes you up in the middle of the night, makes the hairs in the back of your neck, makes your flesh crawl kind of sound. And I was reminded of it tonight when St Mirren scored the winner in injury time, because that's how Rangers do. That's how Rangers do since 2012. It's always injury time that these things happen. We're not just 2-0 doing at half time, then pull one back. It's always injury time. And that's the sound that Michael Stewart was making tonight on TNT Premier, whatever it was, Premier Sport. It was preternatural. It was horrific. Kind of just cheering in your face. And it's that kind of Schadenfreude thing about Scottish football. But everybody's very small and want to annoy folk. Want somebody to act the big man so they can get brought to him and go, that's what nobody's trying to achieve. And that's why the Italians, Fabrizio Ravanelli is nicknamed the White Feather. The White Feather. They play for Dundee. But that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I want Yanis Hadji to be nicknamed the Safecracker or the Lockpick, because he can unpick defences. Even though he's slow, he's studied. And he can. If we're camped outside somebody's box, we can. And nobody wants to do that in Scotland. I mean, as I said, Jörg Alberts he wasn't a hammer. He was more like a laser, wasn't he? The way he hit it was about accuracy as much as power. And I wanted him to. Jamie Carragher was talking about Didier Drogba last week, and he was talking about. He said it was a back amongst all the praise he was lumping towards him. He was a deadly finisher. He's a great dribbler and that kind of thing. He was a backboard. That's the first I've heard anybody else using that about a footballer. He's a backboard. The French that I know, Didier Drogba, that plays for Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana. Anyway, doesn't play for France, francophone, but he's. It's basically the guy that played for Arsenal, Olivier Giroud, right? All through the 2018 World Cup, I'm on Twitter and that, giving it the backboard. I'm going to call him the backboard because he wasn't scoring any goals, but he was helping France be the best team in the world by basically heading the ball backwards, by being, going up with the centre half and nodding the ball down to oncoming strikers or oncoming players who were scoring all the goals, and he wasn't getting any goals, but he was actually helping them win the World Cup. He was a key part of it. He's the backboard. I didn't hear that getting mentioned about. It wasn't even about Olivier Giroud by MD Elson Toast. I'm really jealous that my nickname is willing to take off, and you get like the metronome for Dimitri Albertini. He's one of the best nicknames ever. Garrincha played for Brazil in the 50s and 60s. His free kicks that used to go over the top and float him over the top of the wall and he'd go down into the net. It was the falling leaf. They gave his free kicks a nickname, the falling leaf. Absolutely beautiful. We don't do that in this country. It really pisses me off. I think we should do the nicknames, and I think what it is I just can't escape the fact Rangers, with all their unionists and kind of British pretensions, which get confused as being kind of the phenomenon. Ronaldo, no Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo, the kind of nonsense. What I'm talking about, is it Luis Nazario da Lima, Ronaldo, the real Ronaldo, the kind of fat Ronaldo, the Brazilian Ronaldo, the phenomenon. He was nicknamed, and he absolutely deserved it, because he was a phenomenon. But I think it's a Schadenfreude thing. We don't want to set ourselves up with fancy nicknames. So you get like Bomber over Bomber Brown. Is Bomber Brown nicknamed Bomber Brown because he played like Colin Jackson, who was nicknamed Colin Bomber Jackson? And was he nicknamed that because he marked Gerd Müller out the game in the semi-finals in the 1972 Cup, 71-72 Cup? But I don't know. I've never really heard that confirmed. Is it just Bomber? Gerd Müller, the greatest for me stats striker, my hero, stats hero. He's nicknamed Der Bomber because of a Glasgow. Uli Hess-Lichtenberg, who wrote the English language history tour of German football for When Saturday Comes books, he says it was a Glasgow newspaper journalist that gave Gerd Müller the nickname Der Bomber because he reminded him of a Stuka. Gerd Bomber, didn't he play? I mean, he was physical. He did thrash the ball into the back of the net sometimes, but mostly it was all about little sclaffs and little touches that changed the direction of the ball. It was about his movement. He wasn't in like a bomber. Didn't work at all. A terrible nickname. I don't know how it worked, but because I've been obsessed with nicknames, I think I've got to the stage where Jack Butland, having played for England and having played for Great Britain, I don't think I can escape the fact that he should be nicknamed Union Jack Butland. He should be nicknamed Union Jack Butland, and I'm no into that. It wasn't Andy O'Rourke. It was Craig Gannon. It wasn't Brian Jones. It was Ronnie Wood. It wasn't Jack Butland. It was in Goals Against Dundee. It was Liam Kelly. I don't think you can get away from the fact that Jack Butland should be nicknamed Union Jack Butland, Britain's number one, if he's going to play in goals for Rangers. And I hate myself. I always like to say, I always protest when not protestant. I always talk about the fact that both my grandfathers are maternal and paternal are both Catholic. I wasn't brought up, I wasn't christened, and that's really boring stuff. I know you've heard that a million times if you've watched these pods. But I always talk about how it really pisses me off when English, somebody supporting England waves a Union Jack. No, because I hate the Union Jack, but because it's like, it's no England, it's Britain. I hate the fact that England get to sing God Save the Queen when they come to Hampden as their national anthem. So I've got to listen to it getting booed, which I take as a personal insult because I'm a Rangers supporter. But I also think it's an insult that England's allowed to sing. Northern Ireland can do what they want. Northern Ireland can do what they want. No touching that one. But it just pisses me off. You know what I mean? You have your own state, Jerusalem. It's a British derby as far as I'm concerned. But we're both parts of Great Britain, and I'm always like, I like unions. I don't like to be a unionist, no kind of connotation, but I'm unionist denotation. I believe in unions like trade unions, same as Walter Smith. Walter Smith didn't want to break the strike. The referees had to go on strike because of the Celtic, the way Celtic were pressuring Neil Lennon was slandering them back in when he became Celtic manager. Was it 2010 or whatever that was? And they had to bring in foreign refs, an absolute embarrassment. And Walter Smith was saying about how because he'd been an apprentice electrician, that he'd trained as an electrician, he got his apprenticeship and that in his early days as a player at Dundee United. And his father was a crane driver, and he'd tell him don't rely on Fitba, obviously for a trade, and so he's doing his apprenticeship. And he said he'd always been a member of unions, so he hated the idea that he was going to have to break the strike, have to break the referee's strike, the Scottish referee strike, for Rangers to play their game again. But it turned out their game against Dundee United at Tannadice of all places. given where Walter Smith learnt his trade. The game was rained off, wasn't it? It got cancelled, so we didn't have to break the strike. That was good. But that's the kind of union I meant. I like the union of Scotland and England, as opposed to we're unionist, and it becomes a kind of nationalism, which is always toxic. I don't know, but Union Jack Butland just seems totally unavoidable, and it just encourages the kind of stuff. No, when Rangers fans made the England top the biggest selling top in Scotland. It was funny. I mean, it was funny for a bit, but it's also weird. It doesn't really. I've got nothing against. I was wanting England to win the Euros and stuff like that. I quite like to see England doing well. Until they're playing Scotland, in which case I want them to get cuffed. I'm not into the whole kind of hating England thing. But I'm no. It's just weird to go and actively support them. It's just felt as if that was. It's no the same as Celtic fans saying they're Irish and that. And this idea that Rangers are the quintessentially British club. We're not. There's nothing quintessentially British about us. We're uniquely British. I don't see any other British clubs flying Union Jack. I mean, I know they'll have the Union Jack with like Chelsea or Plymouth or Argyle or Portsmouth, whatever, on the I don't know, I'm just sticking to down south, Newcastle on a Union Jack. I don't know why I'm sticking to these kind of clubs, but you'll have them using Union Jacks now. But down south, or maybe Hearts fans occasionally, but we're no uniquely British, we're singularly British. We're really obsessed with the British thing in a way that I don't think any other British club, and maybe Northern Ireland, there's a few, whatever, but I don't think we're uniquely British. I think we're Celtic are as quintessentially British as we are, and that kind of, like hating each other and just, liking Bovril and pints and that before, that's quintessentially British, having somebody that you despise and you think you're better than, and you want to go and have a dust up and stuff like that, that's quintessentially British. It's not. Anyway, I don't. But I think I wanted. Like Judy. Scotty and Vertigo gets her to wear the same stuff and all that as Madeline, and it's like I've spent my whole life thinking, oh my God, Chris Wood's the best goalkeeper I've ever seen, and then it was like, oh no, Andy Goram's the best goalkeeper I've ever seen, and Stephen Close was coming close. No pun intended there. No pun on his name intended. But then Alan McGregor comes in. Eventually, I had to say no. Alan McGregor is the best goalkeeper I've ever seen. Certainly at Rangers, anyway. I don't have room to have another game. I kept getting told how great Jack Butland was, and I didn't really believe it was. I just fighting it because of the nickname thing and wanting to. I don't know, but he come hearing out his goal the night, and Jack my body, Jack my body. He come hearing out his goals, and end could happen. But what was it? 28th minute, the ball gets played over the top by the opposition goalkeeper, who was also wearing pink. Maybe it should be colour coded. Just have Jack Butland always wearing all pink like it was the night, and Liam Kelly should always wear all yellow. But the ball get kicked up, just a clearance for their goalkeeper, or a goal kick or whatever, just went right over the halfway line and went down into our box. And I think Proper was kind of getting he was going to be there, and the fella was running on to the end of it. What's his name again? I don't remember the names of all the opposition players, but he was heading on to the ball, and when Jack Butland came out, you just got the feeling that everything was possible, and none of it was really good. And he ends up kind of hitting the guy like a steward, dragging down a 12-year-old who's run onto the pitch to try and get Ronaldo's a selfie with Ronaldo. Used to be autographs when I was a kid, but it's always selfies these days. Kelty, that was the fella, Kelty. And it just, I thought it could have been a red card, but it could have thought Jack Butland was going to end up like grabbing the ball outside the box, or he was going to punt the ball into the stand, or but he just had a bad kind of piece of everything that was possible there, and he brought him down, and it was penalty to St Mirren. But it wasn't really Jack Butland's fault that St Mirren were at that stage. It was just an absolutely horrendous game. 43 minutes before I really started talking again. That's got to be a record, but it's Boxing Day and I'm tired, and supposed to be drinking and eating Christmas cake, and just we'll get back onto that. But it's not good. The big news tonight was that Jack Butland was back after celebrating the birth of a baby girl during last Saturday. Congratulations to Jack and his wife, and to the wee girl herself. He was back in nets. Dujon Sterling, he remained at centre half, but he swapped sides. Balogun stayed and Proper get dropped, and the manager was saying it's about rotation, but I think everybody was thinking it's because Olasanya kind of ragdolled him and gave him a real hard time at Ibrox a wee while ago. I remember going to a game, it was standing in the East Enclosure No, the West enclosure, God, late 80s, early 90s, and just thinking, it was Rangers against Aberdeen. I was quite far down the front, me and my mate, and we probably had a few pints at that point in time. But I remember thinking, God, Theo Snelders is playing quite well. He's playing a good game. Good. I think it was at the end of the game. I said to somebody, Snelders was quite good today, wasn't he? And it was like Michael Watt was in goals for Aberdeen. All right, okay. So I've not, it's not as if I've looked at, but keeping it Aberdeen, the worst version I ever had was the Rangers end at Hampden for Scotland against Greece. The last time we were going to see Greece in March, but the last time we played Greece, Scotland. European Championship qualifier for Euro 96. No, so we're talking 30 years ago here. And it's this guy, obviously an Aberdeen fan. And it was that way when you didn't know who everybody else knew about you was supporting. That was my mate Scott, me both blue noses, but you're thinking, this guy just kept slagging Alan McLaren and saying Duncan Shearer was brilliant and Shearer was, great touch Shearer. And it was 0-0. Fantastic Duncan Shearer, brilliant Duncan Shearer, McLaren, what you doing, McLaren? And eventually, just kind of everybody, he'd said something too far about Alan McLaren, and everybody eventually turned around and shouted, McLaren's no playing, that's Colin Calderwood. And the guy was a bit embarrassed, and you realised, surrounded by blue noses here, no supporting Scotland. And then Duncan Shearer gets subbed off for Ali McCoist, and the guy's go, that's a fucking terrible decision, Brown. Terrible, Craig Brown. Absolute joke, Craig Brown. That's an absolute joke. And then Ali scores the only goal of the game and wins it and effectively qualifies Scotland for Euros. The guy got up and left. He left raging because it's a Scotland game. You're supposed to be supporting Scotland, but he did. It was terrible. So it's not just me that does these kind of things. And I can laugh about that because Aberdeen get beat 4-0 in the day, and we still didn't gain any more points on them. But the team the night, you'd Raheem Sterling, Dujon Sterling coming back. Danilo was out and Bajrami comes in, so Danilo was nominal 10 thing, an actual 10 comes in and he plays. So that means we're only playing with one striker, Igaman, he's up front, but Bajrami's going to play the actual 10. The kind of, not so much like a big shout as a kind of medium-sized raising of the voice, was Raskan being benched in favour of Connor Barron. Connor Barron, who's been a bit quiet of late, not getting a game of late. And Nico Raskin, who's been sensational for us, just turning into a bit of a superstar over the last month. He's on the bench, and you're thinking, yeah, I know it was a booking away from get suspended for the Old Firm game, and it'll probably be that more than anything else. But I think the manager would also want to. I was kind of thinking, yeah, he's wanting to protect these players, but when it's away from home and we've still not really got a great away from home form going in Scotland this season domestically, I thought maybe a bit of a risk. You want to do it by starting with your best team probably and getting the game won by half time, then rest players. I don't know. The manager probably thinks no, but if it's going badly, you want to be able to change it up rather than change it down. So it was, anyway, it's easy, it's hindsight, it's easy to say that, but Nico Raskin was benched. Hadji, Cherny, Hefty and Igaman seem kind of undroppable just now domestically anyway. Number one striker now, Igaman seems to be, and Cherny is slowly becoming our number one goal scorer, kind of under the radar. He's moving up, going to catch up on Desser's total for the season if he keeps going the way he's been going of late. But he wasn't going to go like that tonight, was he? He wasn't going to get any goals tonight because we were absolutely terrible. The first half we were just non-existent. I think we got our first corner after about 7 minutes. Tav takes it short to Hadji. I thought that's good. We're changing the corners. Hadji's doing this drifting 10 thing, and he's basically playing off the left in the 4-2-3-1, but I felt as if what we're trying to do is make up for the fact that Nico Raskin's an out. He's become our out-and-out 6. He was always supposed to be a 6, apparently, but he seemed to be more of an 8 than anything else for a long time at Rangers. But he's become this amazing 6. And Barron and Diamandi are both 8s. And if we're playing them as a sitting 2, you lose that kind of creativity. So I thought we're trying to play 2 10s. So we can get a hold of the ball. We've got a kind of creative outlet up front to keep us. I was talking after the Dundee game about how we've got this kind of 4-2 jazz hands. The formation's this kind of 4-2 pow. We're so amazing up front when we really look the game against Kilmarnock. It would be Kilmarnock 6-0. The front 4, 5 are just amazing at times. They're so fluid. You don't actually know who's doing what. Raskin ends up just sitting in between the 2 centre halves, and it's just like basically there's 7 players running all over the opposition box. Super creative, super offensive. It's mesmerising for the opposition, but it hasn't happened enough. And there was no sign of it whatsoever tonight. It was more of a kind of 4-2 what? 4-2 where? 4-2 why? What's happened? The first half was terrible. We were awful. St Mirren got that goal in the half hour, but we just couldn't get a hold of the ball. There's no creativity. Tav's doing his crosses from like 30 yards away out in the wing, having to. It's going to have to be an absolute worldie to pick out a man who looks totally exposed and he's not really creating anything because he's not getting the service, or is it because he's going off the boil as well? It was about 16 minutes that Balogun went over in his ankle, or went over his feet. He kind of pulled up. I don't know what the injury is yet. You'll probably know by now. I've not actually looked into it. I've not watched the post-match stuff, but he went over, went up in his ankle, obviously struggling in a way I haven't seen since Alec Miller in the 1982 Scottish Cup final during extra time, for one of Aberdeen's goals during that game. But he did really well to retrieve the situation. It was a foot race with Olasanya, and he gets back up and he blocks the shot Olasanya's having, and he tackles him to clear the ball, but then he goes off. He goes off, and we get Proper on, and this is when Michael Stewart came into his own, hoping that Proper was going to be traumatized, just inventing this whole scenario where Proper is sitting like me, having a can of lager and eating Christmas cake and having leftover turkey and stuff like that, and it's just like, what, I've got to go on, oh my god, I hate that. I think he's a bit more prepared for the situation than Michael Stewart was hoping, but I thought the first couple of times he had a go at Olasanya. It maybe had to change centre-half. We had to change the position of the centre-halves. Dujon Sterling comes over to the right-hand side, and Proper goes over to the left, but then so St Mirren moved Olasanya onto him. Remember, we did to him in the game at Ibrox. We did to Proper at the game at Ibrox, and as a kind of ball comes in, I think it was a long throw into the box, and Proper was making a big deal. He really went up into the back of Olasanya quite heavily, but he got ahead to the ball, and then he kind of, there's an incident a few seconds later out in the wing where he seemed to kind of put him into the stand almost. I thought, that's fine. Proper puts Olasanya like on his back, and you're thinking, he looks a bit, he's going in too heavy, but this is him trying to make his mark, and he has just come into the game 20 minutes in. He'll be called as a substitute. I thought he was doing all right, but no, generally we weren't doing too well at the back at all. They were making us uncomfortable. St Mirren, kind of 42 minutes, Igaman controls the ball, he's back to the goal. He's got to kind of bounce it up and down almost, and he turns and lobs it straight into the goalie's arms. That was it. That was it in terms of chances of shooting on goal in the first half. But there was a lot of injury time because of Balogun having to go off. I think it was like 6 minutes injury time, and Diamandi seemed to be getting booked for the exact same foul that I'd seen from the 200 St Mirren games guy earlier on, just stopping and deliberately body checking a guy who knew he was behind him coming in on goal. But it was, I don't know, what was the guy? Fraser. It felt like Fraser. He got booked for doing the same thing to Igaman. There was a drop ball for that, but there was a goal. That's the only kind of conspiracy. I know we started this game knowing all about the SFA having let Alan Muir and Frank Connor come back to active duty. They've missed out 2 rounds of fixtures. It's a 2-match suspension. Doesn't seem enough. Rangers are getting into it, and at half-time you're thinking our new CEO, who is making it very public that he's going to have a go at the SFA for this kind of stuff, for the refereeing controversy, the VAR controversy during the League Cup final. You're thinking, is he going to... if he likes playing to the galleries, is this going to end up seeing the manager sacked as well? Is he going to not mess about with the manager? I don't know. I do think it is a project for all my sarcasm at the beginning of this. I don't think that'll be what's going to happen here. But Conor Barron off, Bajrami, who was terrible. I was really disappointed in Nadeem Bajrami the night. He was terrible as well. The 2 of them went off at half time. So Raskan comes on, Danilo comes on. So we're back to the thing where we've got the 2 strikers, and I mean, we pounded them. We just absolutely pounded St Mirren from the off. In fact, to be honest, I think St Mirren had the ball in our box, a kind of muted attack in the first 30 seconds of the second half, and then that was it until we scored. We just utterly pounded. Our movement was fantastic. We're overwhelming them. And it was kind of incrementally getting closer. And Igaman, who you could now properly judge because he was getting the service, he starts coming into the game as well. So the whole thing was augmenting it for us. We're bringing Igaman into the game. Danilo's looking really dangerous. Tav, instead of play the ball in from the halfway line, practically is overlapping. He's kind of quarterbacking it, if you like, from an overlapping fullback hitting the opposition byline. But really, it was an effective quarterbacking from Tav. But it was also, really, mainly, it was Nico Raskin who just took the game by the scruff of the neck. He was quarterbacking the whole thing. He was running the whole thing. winning every tackle. Every time St Mirren tried to get forward, he was cutting it out, and he's also just playing balls through all the time. Just attacking, probing balls all the time, straight to Rangers players. They're talking about in the commentary, just like first touch stuff. In the first half, you're thinking, St Mirren, their tactic was just put the ball off the top of us and let Olasanya run onto it. Attack us directly, and that's how they got the goal, not through Kilty rather than Olasanya. That's how they got the penalty. But it's not just because of the way we play. We play this really high line, and sometimes we leave the two centre halves back, and the midfield and everybody else is just piled into the opposition half, and it gives big space in behind us. But I think it's also because we couldn't make the ball stick up front. We couldn't have sustained attacks. So we're giving the ball away straight away. So St Mirren are able to just play it forward and come straight back at us. This period in the second half, it was relentless. St Mirren couldn't get into the game at all. Stephen Robinson's out screaming at his players within the first 5 minutes, saying, "I told you this was going to happen," kind of thing. Get yourself back in the game. And we were. I think we had a couple of shots on goal, a couple of saves of their keeper. Their keeper was dropping it and then jumping, falling on the ball. Cherny hit the post, and then we had the actual goal itself, which was everything I'm talking about, just coming completely realised, where it turns Igaman, is it Teddy Sheringham? Who is it turns and has the shot for Manchester United in the 1999 Champions League final? I think it's the one Sheringham puts away. Is it Peter Schmeichel? Look, I hope not. Somebody turns and has kind of weak ass shot from the edge of the box when Man United are going for it, trying to get the equaliser, and Teddy Sheringham just kind of converts it in, doesn't he? But it's whoever has that kind of weak ass shot. That's what Igaman's shot was like. He just basically, it wasn't even a shot. I think he was just playing it back into the box, into the 6-yard box, and everybody was there. I think Raskin was in there as well. I mean, 2 or 3 Rangers players had a go at it until eventually Danilo puts the ball over the line. But that's something we didn't do for the rest of the game. At any point in the rest of the game, after we scored the goal, as we got the equaliser, Danilo scores the equaliser. It's on the hour mark, wasn't it? It was half an hour to go. And we seemed to be absolutely dominating them. St Mirren made a double substitution. I thought it was a treble substitution, but I think it was actually a double substitution. They seemed to have a whole team on the touchline. Stephen Robinson's reacting straight away because he knew what was happening and he just needed to do something to sort it out. So they did make a treble substitution at the time as soon as we scored that goal, which took ages, got checked for ages by VAR. We're complaining. You can't complain because decisions have gone against you. That's what instigates your complaint, but ultimately the complaint has to be that VAR isn't doing its job. And it's going to be the case that VAR really does its job, gets to be really, really forensically the opposite of what they did with the decision where we should have got the penalty in the League Cup final. There was a lot going on in the box, and after checking for offside, the game, they thought the game was never going to restart. By the time it did, St Mirren had substituted half their team. The goal was allowed. It was one each, and we were absolutely pounding them. But they made St Mirren made this double substitution that really changed the game for them back slowly in their favour. Or it kind of stemmed the Rangers' tide, if you like. But when we scored the goal, the way we scored it, was it something we never did for the rest of the game? It's something we rarely do in so many games this season. We don't have anybody just like standing in the 6-yard line. We've got so much pressure. We have so many shots. Goalkeepers are parrying the ball. It's going loose. Defenders are getting confused. We have teams, we're able to put teams under pressure. We don't have somebody just doing that instinctively. You do it at the 5-a-sides and all that. You know, I'm a bit further up the park than I usually am. I'll try and get myself a wee goal. It's not just a striker's instinct, it's a footballer's instinct. If the ball's bobbling about the box, go and get yourself in there and try and score a goal. We had a corner at one point. It was a corner that wasn't a corner. It was clearly Igaman who'd put the ball out, but they gave us a corner. And while St Mirren were protesting, and I love this, was it Cherny? I can't remember who ran over and took the corner really quickly while St Mirren are protesting, like no mercy, quite right, and just put the ball right to the front post. And I think it was Hadji who was standing at front post. He back heels it, so the ball's just basically rolling about the 6-yard box. And there was it took St Mirren, a couple of split seconds to see the ball and clear it. We had nobody. Nobody's thinking never mind as a Rangers player trying to get, just as a footballer wanting to make a name for yourself, wanting to have some fun. We've got the ball in their box, it's going free, I'm going there to try and get a goal. There's a real poor instinct amongst us, I think, collectively, this team, about just putting the ball in the back of the bloody net, which seems a basic. And it didn't happen. 71 minutes, Sterling, Dujon Sterling had a great tackle. He seemed to have a great game, Sterling. Seemed to be having a great game. He's a tackle on Ayunga just as they kind of There he hit us in the break. I think he put it out for a corner, but it was a great tackle. And you're thinking, aye, Dujon Sterling's having a fantastic game. Butland was I think that set up the first corner for these two corners for St Mirren in rapid succession. We defended both of them horrifically. Butland seems to be kind of flapping at both of them, and then the second one comes off Proper's shoulder, the back of his shoulder, and comes back down off the bar. So it's not as if St Mirren was coming out and all getting. We substituted in 81 minutes. I think 78 minutes we took Hefty off, and we brought on Yilmaz, and then a few minutes later we took off Igaman and brought on Dessers, which I don't know. It just stopped. That was it. That really, I think we probably still had most of the play, but our penetration, our momentum completely went, and all kind of, I mean, any ranged attack just went to Yilmaz to die. It wasn't just putting in back. It wasn't just doing that thing that Tav had been doing in the other wing in the first half of trying to lob a worldie into the box from practically the halfway line and out on the wing. He was just putting it straight out. He was just putting the ball straight out of play. 3 times at least I can remember. He just kicked the ball straight out, and Dessers doesn't exactly have the movement that we require for this kind of game. It was the Ibrox Sonia had been getting belted out just after we scored the goal, but it died out, and then it's the old, as I say, this is what I mentally thought to myself, well, Aberdeen get hammered today. At least if we gain a point on them, it's not looking like we're going to win the league anytime soon. This isn't good enough. I kind of gave up on the game. I did kind of in my head. I stopped even kind of hoping that we're going to win this game. And I thought, and as I was thinking, the minute you stop trying to go forward, even me sitting in the sofa thinking about it mentally, that's when you end up going backwards, and that's when St Mirren had their moment. I don't know if it's proper, giving the ball to Sterling and slightly under pressure. Big Dujon's still been able to deal with it, but he's closer to the halfway line. Yeah, he's just away from the halfway line. Just, 10 yards from the halfway line, out in the wing. He has this ball, he's back to go, he takes it from Proper, and St Mirren just tackle him and take the ball off him. But even then, Czerny is tracking the guy back. This guy just piles down the wing, the St Mirren player, once he's dispossessed Dujon Sterling. We've got about 3 players between him and getting the cross in, and he gets the cross in. And Proper just watches it going to the young fella. I don't know who it was, not even in the penalty spot, still towards the edge of the box. He takes a bad touch, but this St Mirren player, but he still is able to turn and lay it off to the incoming Northern Ireland international, who hits a great shot, into the bottom corner of the net. But it's basics, the basics that we couldn't do all night, and that is a night of terrible deliveries from Rangers players, and St Mirren kind of deliver the hammer blow, as Jock Brown would have called it. It was a terrible performance, absolutely terrible performance. And your judgment here. Oh, by the way, sorry, this is your fat egg. Immediate post Rangers have gone back to being the team that they were before the month of December. At the end of the month of December, reaction pod coming to you in association with Jersnet Live. This is the time of year where you lose track of what day of the week it is, but Jersnet Live on YouTube every Friday night at 9 p.m. and every Sunday at 9:30. Check out Jersnet for the best post-match reactions, the best analysis. I'm coming to you in association with Jersnet and with bacon. I discovered bacon is basically, you don't know how much work it's doing during the Christmas dinner, because you get the pigs in blanket. Obviously, everybody knows pigs. Oh, I want pigs in blanket. Say something original. I want pigs in blanket for Christmas. That's good. You get the bacon round about the sausage, and you've got the bacon on the turkey, the turkey crown. We had yesterday bacon on turkey crown. That's absolutely makes a difference the taste wise. But you also get the bacon through if you put it through the Brussels sprouts, it makes everything. But I think bacon is to Christmas dinner what Rangers winning is to life. Just makes everything tastier, makes everything so much nicer. Rangers losing is to life what Kleenex, a stray Kleenex in a pocket is to your load of washing. You bring it out and it's not completely ruined, but it's a fucking pain in the arse, and you've got to pick it up for it. It's terrible. But yeah, this is your fat egg immediate post-match reaction pod, and it was not a good match to react to, folks. I'm really sorry this has dragged on and on. I try to put off the Celtic fans. I know I'm not really doing that at all, but I'm probably putting off more Rangers fans than anything else. It's not really Celtic fans I'm worried about just now. It's more Rangers fans. If we start this thing again, I could see. I'm not at the game. People are at the game. I've got much more right. Rangers fans have taken the trouble, especially in Boxing Day, to go to the game. Much more right to react however they want to react than I have. It's just my personal view just now that it is a project. It is a rebuild. We just got that little. I'm doing the a bit of Yates, the second coming. We're going to require a second coming now this season because that was us just kind of recovering from the start to the season. It was a poor start to the season. But with it, we had that moment in Nice, as I say, I was making a big deal of it with Ali McCoy saying we scored more goals in the first half in Nice than we had domestically away from home all season. And we kind of rectified that in the following game away to St Johnstone, beating them in the 3-0 win at Ross County. Thinking, yeah, we're turning things round now. I know Hampden is a neutral venue for the League Cup final, but that's the first time we've scored 3 goals against Celtic at Hampden in 20 odd years. I think it's the first time we've scored 3 goals at Hampden and lost since. Well, I can work out it's 1938. The 1938 Scottish Cup semi-final against Kilmarnock, we get beat 4-3, but there's probably another time much more recently that I haven't thought of. My don't all the facts I dish out in these podcasts come with a health warning. But it's, what do you think? If you go back to the position I was taking in the early part of the season, was that this is a rebuild. I wasn't expecting to win the league this season. And I think this game today sums up that position I'm always coming from, which I know is really boring. I'm trying to work out other ways to say it, to make it, interesting, more interesting. But it's that thing of we go on a run and then we fall. And then we go on because we're still coming back. There's an undertow from 2012. We did that thing today that we've done time and time again, especially since 2012, starting a game poorly and then having a moment we seem to have dragged ourselves back into it, but the undertow is there. It's too late. It's the first time I ever kind of remember acknowledging this concept is in Graham Souness's No Half Measures, which I probably read about 40 years ago, where he's talking about the boot room boys, Ronnie Moran and Joe Fagan, that's saying to Liverpool teams in the dressing room before the start of a game, you can start too fast and slow down, but it's nearly impossible to start too slow and speed up and catch up with a game that you haven't get into from the word go. And St Mirren playing, I'm not insulting St Mirren, I'm not wanting to insult Stephen Robertson, but it seems to be they just get steamed in and had fairly basic tactics of picking out what they thought were the weak points in the Rangers team and going for them. We've done the same to St Mirren and been unable to beat them, and lost to them, been unable to take anything off them. First time since I didn't realise it was Christmas Eve back in 2011, 2012. We thought we were going to win the league. The top flight under Ali, and that season took us. Bigger issues came to the fore, but I didn't realise it was actually Christmas Eve that we lost that game. It's our first loss to St Mirren since that game back in 2011. Just before the season, we went into administration and then eventually liquidation, and that was the end of 2011. It was terrible. And it's a pretty bad. It's not the end yet of 2024, but it means when we go to Motherwell, in the worst possible situation for us now because they've taken a tanking of Celtic today, which means Celtic are now back to being 12 points clear of us. But it also means Motherwell have got a great. It's not even like it's like a week later they have to play us. We can't wait to get stuck. We need another. We're humiliated by Celtic there. We want another chance at the Old Firm to prove ourselves. It's only a few days later. It's no having to wait a whole week and letting it fester. And my problem with Rangers is I don't think it was losing that League Cup final that set us back to our ways of earlier in the season. I think it's the 6-day break after the League Cup final. We do not do well after a break. International breaks, whatever. It doesn't matter what our form was going in. When we come out, it's bad. And as per, that's something that's not just under Philip Clement's watch. That's been happening. We remember it well during Stephen Gerrard's reign, his 3-year reign. It's as is this way of starting games too slowly, and then we get back into them. It usually happens at Rugby Park. It happens at Rugby Park at least once a season. It seems to be doing that for forever. We really struggle, but today we just, as the manager himself said in his post-match comments, we threw away the first half, but he's going to take the blame for that. I think you can see the weakness of our squad, and I'm saying that today is a game where I get that you have to rotate the team to get the best out of them to avoid injuries. Look at what happened with Balogun. Even though it's John Souttar, we've lost through injury from first and foremost. Now we're losing other players. But what about St Mirren? What kind of money have St Mirren got Look at Declan John playing for them the day. You know what I mean? Who's a memory from the banter years for us. Declan John, almost. You know, and there he is. He's out the other day, and he's part of a St Mirren team that just kind of blew us away with their directness, their application, their physicality. They, they'd be lucky if any of the players would get into our team. And I'm now tonight thinking we should buy Olasanya. We should buy a couple of their guys just to make sure they don't play against us again. It's when you think about it that way. I don't. You probably can't use the rotation and the paucity of our squad as an excuse. It's not an excuse against anybody other than Celtic, really. My whole thing was I was kind of mocking after we beat Dundee. I was mocking the people who'd said, "Oh, it's unacceptable for Rangers to finish third." Well, mock me back because it's back on. Aberdeen cannot continue in free fall. I can't believe their scores today. I can't believe the scores they've had recently. They just keep losing. And that's all it's allowed us to get in front of them, and we're only a point in front of them. I know we've still got a game in hand on them, but they have got to come back into any kind of form. We'll have them going neck and neck with us again for second place, which is embarrassing enough. I don't know, there was, Premier Sports were doing their thing of close-ups of the CEO, close-ups of Patrick Stewart in the St Mirren main stand today. What's he thinking? Is he thinking it's time for the manager to go? And I know, without even having to look on social media, that thousands of Rangers supporters will be seeing the manager as the problem. And a lot of people were keeping their powder dry. As I was saying, a lot of Rangers fans were not enjoying Rangers doing quite well over the last month because it was keeping Clement in the job. They still see, so their point will be proven today. They'll be back on it, but it was unacceptable. I wanted Madeline, and we got Judy. I wanted Ringo Starr, and we got Pete Best. I wanted Liam Kelly, and we got Jack. That's too cruel. That's not nice. But it's terrible. It's a kind of reversal of the cruelty I felt last Sunday when everything seemed so nice. I was just heading out to go to Buchanan Galleries, and I'd seen that Celtic had kicked off at 12, and I suddenly realised it was half time and they were 0-0, and I was getting myself ready to go out, and I just jumped in. I had Sky Sports News on the telly, and I just jumped in to turn the telly, and I was at the living room door looking over at the telly, and I saw Dundee United 0-1. Oh, right, it's Celtic have scored. I was getting myself all excited there. But it turned out it was Spartans, and it was Dundee United women were at home to Spartans in the SWPFL. I was, that's quite, and that was quite a nice wee moment. I was laughing to myself and all that. Away I went for my shopping, and this week it's just completely the opposite. There is zero to laugh about, except the stupidity of me thinking Rangers may be able to mount a title challenge. Right, folks, that's more than enough from me. I've given you a wee bit extra here because I don't know how to stop talking. But mostly because I didn't do a preview for the St Mirren game. I think I'll probably will do a preview for the Motherwell game if I get a chance. I'll try and keep it a nice and short one. But as I say, we're still kind of reduced holiday service, reduced service for the holidays. But I wasn't expecting Rangers to join in on the reduced service vibe. Talk to you soon, troops.